The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of KSMQ Public Service Media Incorporated or its assigns.
Welcome to On Cue. I'm Eric Olson. Today we're talking ghosts and growth. We have a special conversation between guest host Courtney Wyant and Adrian Lee. Adrian is a paranormal expert and author with some spine-tingling tales to share. Then a little closer to Earth, Larry Dolphin of Austin joins me to share the plans for a new interpretive center for the Hormel Nature Center. And then Sandy Forstner gives us a Vision 2020 update on a campaign called We Are Austin. Stay with us. On Cue is next.
From KSMQ Television in Austin, this is On Cue, connecting interesting issues and interesting people. On Cue.
A new interpretive center for the J.C. Hormel Nature Center has been on Larry Dolphin's wish list for quite some time. Now he is joyfully making that wish a reality with the help of community partners. He joins us today to tell us a little bit more. Welcome, Larry.
Good to be here.
Executive Director of the Nature Center, and I must say, when we first moved to town, it was one of the first places we went to. One of the first places was recommended to go check out because of its beauty and the things to do if you have a family. But folks watching might not be that familiar with the Nature Center as we know it today. Tell us what it's about.
Well, we have 507 acres, 9 to 10 miles of trail, so there's lots of things you can do on those trails, from hiking, cross-country skiing, running, bird watching, looking at flowers. We have lots of prairie, some remnant, some restored prairie. We have a pond where we look for critters with families and children of all ages, and a stream. We look for critters in the stream as well. So those are the water haunts that we have, are favorite places for a lot of kids and a lot of families, and so we have summer adventure programs where we bring in special speakers, and it's fun to set those up. We have lots of great people coming into Austin from all over the Midwest primarily, and we have the interpret center we have now, exhibit displays. Small number of those. It's not a very big area. That's, of course, one reason why we're pursuing going to a brand new building.
Right. So. And folks, you don't need a ticket.
Yeah, right. It is free, and we have Friends of the Nature Center, and then of course we're part of the City of Austin, and we have big friends in the Hormel Foundation. And so, and then all those members of Friends that, like KSMQ, you need members to run with and go with. And so we feel real good about our membership that we have, which helps provide support for a lot of these programs. Many of the programs are free, and we try to cut the costs so it's easy for people to come to as far as the programs go. And even then, like our ski rental is $1 for poles, skis, and boots, and adults pay $6. We no longer have a seasonal pass that's required to cross-country ski at the Nature Center. We also have snowshoeing, and we're always looking forward to snow. So
and free owl calls.
Yes,
free owl calls from somebody who you're a dead ringer for those. You do that very well.
Yeah, I enjoy calling owls. More importantly, I like the relationship when the owls call back, and then also when they actually come in. And I one short story, I had an owl fly right over my head this summer, and what was so cool about it was you couldn't hear it. It was totally silent. And that's how they get their food.
I was going to say, you've said that in your presentations, that's how they get their their wings and the feathers or whatever are.
The adaptations of are of such that, if you're a mouse, you're just dead.
You don't hear them. Yeah. So it's a very popular place, needless to say. And in the past month, there's been some great news at the Nature Center about future growth plans. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's a $7 million project, and Hormel Foundation is contributing $5 million to that project, and then we are applying for another $500,000 with the Hormel company, and then and then we're raising another $1 million for our exhibit displays, and that'll be we already have $300,000 of that to get where we need to be for that $1 million.
So is it for more? So to say, when you give a presentation, is this so that the space is bigger, or will you just have more choices for people? What's the layout inside?
Well, space is an issue with our existing interpretive building. Our exhibit display area is way too small for what we want to do, and then space is an issue with curriculum storage and staffing, and all of that is a problem. Plus, the fact of the matter is the interpretive center is also in the flight path of the airport. So if something were to happen to the interpretive building as it is right now, we wouldn't be able to rebuild there. So somewhere in the near future, we would probably have to rebuild. A tornado came through, and I believe it was 2009, and took part of the roof off. So it made us aware that maybe we need to look at putting this building someplace else so we can. If we have to rebuild it, we would, but yeah.
And there's a floor plan that's a preliminary floor plan. Did you, based on your knowledge of the region and what goes on, did you have a hand in it in knowing what spaces you wanted where?
Yeah, the whole community. It was a participatory. We had lots of people, Friends board members, Park board members, all kinds of people involved with the planning of this project with the architect. And so we pulled that all that information together as far as site location, what we wanted, and of course, being there at the Nature Center for over 25 years, you get a feel for what you need and for the future. And so, and of course, one big thing about it too is we're really pursuing very hard the renewable energy, solar, geothermal, and in this project. So hopefully when we're done with this project, it'll cost us maybe a lot less money than it does to operate the existing building that we have right now. And so we're excited about that opportunity, kind of a showcase place for renewable energy.
Maybe a little wind too out on the ridge out as you're getting out of town.
Wind is good. We just have to be careful of how high we put it, because that flight path of the airport comes into play again.
Oh, sure. Okay. So I was just saying it's usually so windy in that stretch.
Oh, yeah, it is.
And there.
Well, we had a tornado go through, and but the wind, we might be able to put some small wind fairly low on it, but that's just might be a little piece of it.
Besides the foundation, Friends, you've talked about several partners. Going forward, are people going to be able to participate in this new venture somehow?
Absolutely. We the Friends of the Nature Center will be holding the pot for the exhibit displays, and so we have 15 exhibit displays that we're proposing to be part of the new building. The exhibit display area will be at least 3 times as big as the existing area that we have now in the Nature Center. So we'll be running the gamut from geology to soil and water, clean air, energy, renewable, interactive type activities that they can do inside the building. We have we're looking at an aquarium for Minnesota fish, Creatures of the Night exhibit potentially, which will be, again, intended to be hands-on and a dark place where you can go into the building. Places for early childhood room where kids can go and do lots of different activities in those rooms. So the exhibit display area is a place where it'll be greatly expanded, and we'll still have the most popular item in the exhibit display area, and that's the fox snakes and the salamanders. Those two get a lot of use. We should be paying them, but we give them food anyway, so yeah.
You're going to need some more volunteers and another clone of yourself with all of these extra programs.
Well, we're looking at expanding our naturalist position to one position into full-time. Of course, it'll be more to clean. The building's about 3 times as big as the existing building we have now, 15,000 square feet versus 5,000 square feet. So we have a room that for renting skis and snowshoes, and it's our craft room and that. And then we'll have two classrooms as well that can handle about 75 per classroom. So we can partition off that classroom. It can handle 150, but we can partition off into 75. So we can have 2 classes going at once. Plus we have our exhibit display area. And we'll still have the Ruby Rupner Auditorium that we can use do for programming.
So you're not moving the rock?
No, we'll just give that rock a big hug. Yeah, so right. That's probably one of the most used pieces of playground equipment in Austin. Children, families climbing that rock.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, better head over there and check it out. Timeline, real quick.
Well, we're looking at moving the maintenance shop to this year, and then groundbreaking will occur in 2016, and fall of 2017 we'll have the dedication for the new interpretive center, the J.C. Hormel Nature Center Interpretive Center.
Well, just wonderful, and congratulations, and thank you for your work out there all these years.
Well, thank you. It's been a great place to work.
Yep. See you again soon, Larry. Larry Dolphin, Executive Director of the J.C. Hormel Nature Center. Stay with us. Coming up next, Courtney Wyant from the Austin Public Library visits with paranormal expert Adrian Lee.
You can watch On Cue anytime by visiting the KSMQ-TV website, ksmq.org.
Welcome, I'm Courtney Wyant from the Austin Public Library, bringing you a special guest who is recently featured at the library, Adrian Lee. He's a historian and paranormal investigator. He's going to share some fascinating stories today. Adrian, welcome to On Cue.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So you're clearly not originally from Minnesota. Tell us where you're from and what really brought you to Austin.
The accent is a bit of a giveaway, isn't it? I was born in London originally. In fact, I've taught all over Europe. I lectured in Vienna, Germany for a while, but I have lived in other countries around the world. But I first came over to Minnesota because I filmed a TV pilot for a paranormal show. So I was minding my own business, lecturing art history, but I've always been involved in the paranormal. I founded the International Paranormal Society. So one day I get a phone call with an American accent on the other end saying, "Are you a paranormal investigator?" And I said, yes, I founded this organization. I've been doing investigations throughout Europe for the last 15, 20 years. They said, "Is it true that you're also a historian?" And I said, yes, I lecture history. So apparently they wanted an English historian with a paranormal background, because if you speak history with an English accent, people believe you. So this is where we are. So in that Venn diagram of Brit, paranormal investigator, and a historian, I'm the one guy sat in the middle.
Great, and the book that you're talking about is Mysterious Minnesota, Digging Up the Ghostly Past at 13 Haunted Sites. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about those sites that you've written about?
Sure. Minnesota's got a really long history, actually, of paranormal activity. People would say to me, well, what's in Minnesota? But ultimately, if you go back to the early pioneer days and the early settlers, there were a lot of deaths here due to bad weather, due to wild animals, due to disease, things like diphtheria. So there's been a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, which can leave ghosts, residual energies, and negativity. When you then factor into that the Sioux Uprising, for example, and the deaths that took place in Minnesota because of the uprising, when you then consider other conflicts, for example, executions, the last execution, public execution in Minnesota was in the Minneapolis City Hall on the 5th floor back at the turn of the last century, and it was such a botched job that they vowed never to execute people publicly again. So all these sites are in the book, so it makes a really good place to investigate. There's lots of history, People are very open in Minnesota to the idea of paranormal activity. So it was really a road trip. I spent 4 years traveling around the state. And as a foreigner, I know parts of Minnesota better, I guess, than most locals do now. But I traveled around the country, the state, with my team, the International Paranormal Society. We investigated many historic buildings, and I wanted to focus as well on some of the small towns. It wasn't a case of going to the cliched buildings, the cliched sites that you read in every book. I really wanted to get out to the edges of the state and explore, just outside of the Twin Cities. So ultimately this book came together as my journey through the paranormal, the things I've experienced. It's crammed full of photographs. It's crammed full of discussions and activity I've had with ghosts. I've actually interviewed them. I've spoken to them, which as a historian is fabulous because that's primary source material. I can talk to people that actually lived in the 1880s.
And could you define for people what is paranormal or paranormal activity?
Sure. Paranormal in itself is a very harmless word. It literally means just above or beyond things that are normal. Well, things that are normal are considered to be things that science can prove. So basically the word paranormal is just a very throwaway term for things that science hasn't proved or can't prove yet. What then gets lumped into that are things like hauntings, spirits, ghosts, UFOs of course, and cryptozoology could be classed as paranormal. But that phrase isn't anything to be scared of, it's just things that can't be explained. So
you've brought some photographs with you that we'd like to discuss.
Sure.
One that in particular interested to me was a table, and it looks like a doll figure sitting upon it.
Yeah, that was taken actually just a couple of weeks ago. This is fresh. That's at the Christie House in Long Prairie, and the Christie House is a fabulous kind of neo-Gothic 1890s, 1901 building that's very colonial. It looks like those buildings you see in every town where the richest person got to build the Gothic house. But it was owned by a gentleman called Dr. Christie, and I've got his photograph, hopefully you can see that. And he died in 1947, and he was the local town doctor, and he practiced from the house. In that particular photograph, we investigated this building, as I said recently. We take lots of photographs of all the rooms we go into. They're called baseline tests. So if anything moves, if anything happens, we've got a record of what it looked like before we investigated. So if there's any activity where objects like the doll on the desk, for example, move, we should see them. As I was taking photographs around the attic, I didn't realise until I got home when I uploaded the image, and this makes all the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, that in the mirror, reflected in the mirror, is a gentleman's face. And that gentleman had to be standing next to me when I took the photograph in the mirror. And I didn't know he was there. So having seen a man's face in the mirror, I was the only man on that investigation. The other were women. There's no other, and none of the women in my team looked like a bald-headed man. So ultimately, I then got a photograph of Dr. George Christie, which I hope you can see. And it's him. So his ghost was standing next to me without me realising it when I took a photograph by accident of the dresser just to make a note of how it was set up. And his face then appears in the mirror, and he had to be standing next to me. So that's a really nice example of how Dr. Christie is still in the house, still residing in the house, and is still a ghost there.
Wonderful. And there was another picture in here. It looks like a brewery that you visited. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
It worries me slightly that you can recognise that as a brewery, because it's the Schmidt Brewery. You must spend a lot of time in breweries, I would suggest. That's actually, the brewery, by the way, is a fabulous building, the Schmidt Brewery. It's like a cross between Willy Wonka's chocolate factory and Gotham City. And it's a very haunted building. If you'd have said to me a few seconds ago, what's the most haunted building in the whole of Minnesota, in my opinion, I'd have said the soap factory on the banks of the Mississippi. So this ultimately is in the basement of the soap factory, and in the brewery there as well. And they've got a big vat that they boil up all of the soap and so forth. And I took a photograph in the basement, and I think I managed to capture a ghost just walking across the page there on the photograph. So it's coming in from the left, and interestingly enough you can see through it. It's diaphanous, and it has a very, very distinctive edge to it. But you've got to remember that that was very dark because I'm in the basement. So I took a photograph with a cable release, and that exposure was maybe 15 to 20 seconds, so you get a sense of it drifting across the photograph, and I took 6 other pictures in the same site at the same time, and it only appeared in one picture. So it was very dark in there. There's more light being let in on the picture than I could actually see with my own eyes, but that's a very, very rare occasion where you can actually see a ghost in a photograph, I believe.
Oh, very interesting. And where can folks check you out online? You have a website where you can see sort of what you're up to and what investigations you're doing. If you want to share that.
My main website is intparanormal.net. That's intparanormal.net. I also have the only paranormal quiz radio show on the planet. It's called More Questions Than Answers. The day there's a second one is going to make me very unhappy, because then I'll go from unique to being common, I guess. So if people want to look up my radio show, that's weekly. If you go to SoundCloud and go MQTA Radio, you'll hear our paranormal quiz radio show. And also on Facebook. You can visit me on Facebook at More Questions Than Answers with Adrian Lee. So everyone's welcome to join that.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today, Adrian.
And thank you for inviting me.
Stay with us. OnCue's Vision 2020 segment is coming up next.
Queue up your own comments for On Cue and send them to us at onq@ksmq.org. On Cue's Vision 2020 segment is brought to you by Hormel Foundation, Games People Play, and Turtle Creek Estates.
And welcome back to On Cue. Time now to talk with Sandy Forstner, Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce of Austin. Welcome, sir.
Well, welcome to you.
Business-friendly environment is the Vision 2020 committee overseeing a new venture, a new idea called We Are Austin.
Business-friendly is one of the 10 project areas of Vision 2020. They're working in a number of areas, but next year we're taking a look at a new program called We Are Austin. The idea of the program is to celebrate our community a little bit more, put a face on the people of Austin, you know, not just the facades, the places of business, organizations and churches, but the people that are inside.
And what's the reason for that, or the purpose? What do you hope to accomplish?
Well, the overall goal is to build community loyalty and to build partnerships amongst people, and recognizing that, you know, it is the people of the community that really makes everything work. From our chamber perspective, you know, it's about customer loyalty and supporting our local businesses, because there are so many ways those businesses touch everyone's lives.
So as a chamber member, it's not just the business aspect, but you're trying to bring more the people or the employees of the places and bring them together or something?
Absolutely. I think, a common misnomer is that businesses are businesses and people are people, but the fact of the matter is businesses are comprised of people. And it's the people, their employees, that make those operations go.
What can we do as a community? What factors are within a community's control to help build its identity in a positive way?
Well, I think one thing that we can do is support the people and the businesses and the organizations that are within our community. Recently here in Austin, there was a grassroots effort called Save Target, after Target announced that it was closing. Very commendable, a lot of passion in that effort, but unfortunately, the time to support those businesses before they decide to leave.
Mm-hmm. What about, and I'm sure you've been involved a lot with that particular issue, and in my discussions with folks, it's been interesting to hear younger people talk about the internet and how they do shopping online. With me, I always just thought, well, they go to another community. They go to Rochester or something instead of Austin. And there's a second component that you're competing with, it seemed to me, from what I learned talking with people.
Yeah, virtual competition is very real, very growing. Cyber Mondays, is gaining fast on Black Fridays. And what I would ask people to think about, of course, is the bricks and mortar businesses, the Main Street businesses, whatever needs your support too. Amazon, your order goes to Amazon, and it is fulfilled in a warehouse somewhere, by robots and a handful of people. When you do business locally, you're dealing with your friends and your neighbors.
Thanks. And you're downtown, your downtown is really picking up steam. I mean, you've got the new Spam Museum coming and a lot of storefronts. Seems like a lot of activity taking place.
Well, that's another component of the We Are Austin, is we want to blow our horn a little bit, because there are a lot of positive developments in our community, you know, from the Spam Museum coming downtown to the new I.J. Holton School, to the Institute's expansion. You can go on and on. There's a lot of reasons to celebrate Austin, and too often I think we look at the negatives, such as Target closing, and we forget about the openings and the continuing and the growth in our community, and that's what we're going to try to address.
And as a Minnesotan, you know, it's hard to brag about yourself.
It is.
I don't like doing
thing, yeah.
I don't like doing it even at the television station here.
But it's important to do, and it's important to recognize, you know, how we get there with that growth, and celebrate the people that are so involved. Vision 2020 is a great example of that. You know, literally hundreds of people involved in that effort, and making some very positive changes on our community. I think changes that, you know, future generations will look back and say, you know, somebody did something right back then.
We Are Austin. We'll be looking for it. Thanks, Sandy, so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me, Eric.
Sandy Forstner, Executive Director of the Austin Area Chamber of Commerce. That will do it for this edition of On Cue. I'm Eric Olson. Thank you for joining us.
On Cue is a production of KSMQ Television in Austin, nonprofit public television.